Where to find talent in construction? I've spent 26 years trying to do this, and I don't even know if I've got the answer yet. So welcome back to the Cultural Hub. I am reading from this. I'm Gaelle Blake. As you know, I've spent 26 years in recruitment in construction, and I'm working for Group Adequate, and I'm going to be the host of this session. So thank you to our headline sponsors who are Gleeds for their continuing support of this stage, and of course to Design and Build for putting together this programme that really tackles, I think, the subjects that matter. So let's talk talent. I certainly enjoy doing that because this is one of the conversations that every single person in this room is either having or is desperately needs to have it. I think we all know people that need to have it. Construction has a talent gap. That's not news. What's harder is to answer what we do about it. Where do we find these people? Not the same people, from the same places, from the same channels as we always have. We're talking about building genuinely new talent pipelines, new communities, new approaches. And where do we find them? And if we do, how do we keep them? Because finding talent and losing it 6 months later is not a recruitment strategy. It's a very expensive revolving door. I mean, it keeps us in business, but we'd much rather you got your talent and you kept them, to be honest. So joining me are 4 people who live and breathe this challenge every single day. So we have Verity. Do you want to wave? Verity Macey is Managing Director of Vistry Central Home Counties, one of the biggest and largest regional businesses within the Vistry Group. She oversees the delivery of major mixed tenure residential developments across the southeast, including private sales, affordable housing and build-to-rent communities. Verity is a respected leader within the UK house building and residential development sector. That's lovely. This is a great job saying how wonderful people are that I know. Sam Price. Sam Price is a Talent Solutions Director at Mawson's Edge, specialising in workplace strategy and talent solutions across infrastructure and major projects. With over a decade of experience, she helps organisations strengthen capability, reduce risk, and improve access to critical skills. So you definitely will be able to help us with this. Sam is recognised for her work in diversity and inclusion, having been named a Workforce Diversity Hero for 2 consecutive years. This is great. So we have Professor Errol Lawson. Professor Lawson is the founder of Building the Future, a UK trademark platform recognising innovation across the built environment sector. A 9-book author, and 2-time Amazon bestseller. He works with entrepreneurs and professionals and emerging leaders to help unlock talent and leadership potential. Errol is passionate about attracting the next generation into construction through innovation and forward-thinking leadership. And we have Karen Slater. Works across recruitment, workforce strategy and early talent development, working for Retinue, which is part of the Engage group. She is passionate about creating meaningful career pathways for the next generation while building strong client partnerships and high-performing teams. Her work focuses on long-term workforce planning, skills development, and talent sustainability. Yay! Welcome, everybody. We've got a microphone here, so they're going to use that to answer your questions. So we want your problems too, not just the polished case studies, your actual problems. So the ones that keep coming up, so you need to scan the QR code that's in your program. So you'll find a program on your seats. There is a QR code there. So apparently there is if I use this. There's a QR code there. So if you want to scan that in and submit your real problems, try and keep them to recruitment. Geopolitical stuff we can't do today. Then we will tackle them live on stage. So, hope that's okay. So should we start with the first one? So we'd like you to rank these recruitment priorities for the future workforce. So if you want to carry on doing that, and we're going to start. So I'm going to ask the panel first of all. There is there you go, Karen. She's not that you picked. Is it working? Can we have the microphone on?
Hello. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, it's working. You don't have to answer this, by the way. Where are the untapped talent pools that construction isn't currently reaching? Yeah, I mean, you're holding the mic. Do you want to go first, or do you want to go for Verity? Go on, Verity, kick us off.
Okay, so it's quite common in house building house building is massive industry, but it's quite a small world, and often it's kind of who knows somebody. A lot of house builder employees move from one house builder to another. Sure, it's the same for lots of construction firms. So we have to definitely do better at tapping into finding talent pools, people, talented members of the team that are not in house building per se. You know, hospitality, sort of ex-armed forces. We've done a lot with ex-forces. Transition into house building works really well. I think realistically, like logistics, hospitality, there's definitely a lot more to be done in terms of not just looking at a CV and going, oh, great, they've worked for a construction company or a house builder. So also I think there's communities that we're not tapping into well enough. I think the diversity in house building and construction definitely needs to improve. So there's definitely some work to be done on that also. But I think it's also role models and kids at school seeing construction and house building as a great career, and it's not all just, muddy boots and PPE out on site. It's also, if you want to be an architect or an accountant, you can do that in construction. So it's also making people aware that there are much wider roles and changing that perception.
I think, Sam, you've got anything more to add? Because I know this is a lot to do. This is a lot of your role doing this, isn't it?
Yeah, I think referrals have a real chokehold on the industry, but it's what you do about them in the recruitment funnel that matters. So instead of just it's jobs for your mates because you're only as diverse as your friendship pool, the people that you worked with before, really look at breaking down what that recruitment journey is. Is it accessible? Are referrals getting benchmarked? You have time in your projects to plan a proper, recruitment process, and a recruitment process that looks at skills adjacency. Like your site-based roles, where are the mums? You can't tell me that women can't come back from a career break and go to a blue-collar trades role. They absolutely can. What's lacking is visibility and access. So if we challenge ourselves to break down those barriers, to have objective recruitment processes, we will see them start to come into the recruitment funnel channels. But the next phase will be keeping them there.
Okay, excellent. Anything more to add? Should I go on to the next one? Errol, is there something you wanted to add?
I think just to echo, really, I think the biggest talent pool untapped is the school. So every school that you go into, that we work in schools mostly across the West Midlands region, and we've just done a program where we're working with Year 9 students, giving them an opportunity to see what the sector has to offer. And in every case, you ask any student, what do you think construction is? They think building.
Yes.
Building. When you open their minds to see the other amazing career pathways, whether it's surveying, design, architecture, their eyes open. Everything that they study in school relates to the built environment. And so until we are able to work more closely with schools, changing the narrative with careers leaders, with parents and with teachers, there's a whole host of untapped talent there that otherwise would consider a career in construction that won't if things remain as a status quo.
I'm a parent at the moment one of my children is really thinking about coming into construction. And what's interesting to me is I think this generation Z, they're called at the moment, are actually very purpose-driven. I think they're very purposeful people, and they want to know why they're doing things, and they want to feel like they're having an impact. And I think somehow we need to really communicate that we're talking about clean water coming out of a tap.
Absolutely.
We're talking about roads that get you to and from school, or building buildings like libraries and hospitals that have a purpose to how we live our lives.
Absolutely.
And I think that to me is something that we need to almost communicate better, that it is an industry that has genuine purpose.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously it's run by commercial companies that want to make a profit, but it does actually have a purpose. Yeah. Rather than just only being profit generating, it builds people's homes, etc. So I think somehow we need to unlock that somehow, don't we?
And tell the story, right?
Yeah.
And help them to connect the work, even on the projects, connecting what they're doing on the project with that bigger picture environmental impact.
Yes.
For generations to come.
Yeah.
That sense of meaning and purpose comes alive.
Yeah, I really believe in that purpose forward thing. I think that if we can get that out there. So How do apprenticeships need to evolve to attract the next generation of construction professionals? Anyone want to talk about?
I'll just say one point and pass it on, just to say that, there's most apprenticeships are technical, and not enough of them are leadership from the get-go. I think if we had more opportunities for young people to engage in the management and leadership roles at a younger age, shadowing, following, learning that side, it'll be more attractive, I think, to young people. I was with somebody today, actually, just chatting earlier, and he's got a big company in Leicester. I don't know if he's here still now, but he's got 3 kids, 2 sons have gone through uni, and they've come and worked on the business. His daughter, he said, I'm going to do criminology instead. They can see the opportunity, the boys could, because it's obvious to them. His daughter, also brilliant, massive company, great opportunity, but it's like, I can't see it for me. I don't see how I can apply my skills and my thinking to this industry. And so she's going elsewhere, do you know what I mean?
But it's about Sam was saying about the visibility. It's also about role modelling, because if they don't see other mums, they might not think that's something they could do. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I think building on your point, we've got a fundamental translation issue that happens from the age of 8 for girls. So schools teach you skills, businesses hire experience, and businesses translate what their purpose is, but they don't translate how a job achieves that purpose, to your point, Errol. So you try and explain that to a school who's focused on, I need these year 6s to pass their SATs, I need these year 11s to pass GCSEs, and ideally for funding purposes, I need as many of them to go apply for A-levels, not vocational qualifications. And I'm thinking about them passing tests, I'm not thinking about them getting a career. What we need to do is disrupt how schools translate skills to purpose and to careers. It's not a, what am I going to do when I'm older? It's a, what can I bring to the table? How agile am I as a human? We've got AI coming, we've got automation. What we need is creative thinkers, which is celebrated in schools, but not in but they can't translate creativity to the future of construction. So how do we as industry peers help schools who have teachers who've never gone into industry translate to the future workforce what they need?
I totally agree. And interestingly, just all of you that have been ranking this, you've actually put apprenticeships and early careers as the most important one, and getting people engaged into schools, etc. And just for what it's worth, I do agree with this, because my son, who's interested in coming into the industry, was told to go into finance because he's good at maths. And it wasn't at school where he was said, what about going into engineering? Just interesting how they're funneled. They're funneled in certain ways. Okay, what role does social media play in changing young people's perceptions of construction as a career?
Definitely think a huge part to play, but I think it's got to be positioned correctly.
Yeah.
So the message has got to be clear. It's got to attract and touch the right people, and there's some good stories out there, definitely, and I think we all have a role to play. So it shouldn't just be it's a tick box that we've got this policy. It's got to be a continuous. And coming back to just jumping back slightly, but there are these skill centres. England schools, skill centres. So there's 30 of those across the UK, but 53% are falling out. So there's got to be something wrong. We've got to go back to the why. Why is there an issue? Are the right people coming through? Or actually are the courses fit for purpose to bring these people out into the world of work? And I think, from being a parent myself, that is giving them resilience.
Yeah.
I think resilience is really, really hard for the younger generation in the nicest way. I remember my mother saying to me, if I could put my head on your shoulders and you knew what you knew now, and giving them that confidence, and that it's okay if you're not good at maths, but actually you can go and build something.
Yes.
Or you can go and fly a drone,
Yeah.
or whatever it might be that you want to be. So 180 job titles in construction, and I bet we could all probably name 30.
Yeah, it's the diversity of it. So we're asking this question then. We're just talking about social media, but what is the most effective way to attract younger talent into construction? Obviously social media and having that. Does anyone else want to comment on the social media side?
I was just going to say, I mean, I still think there's this huge kind of naivety about what actually some of the construction roles actually entail. And I think maybe social media has a role in terms of whether it's a day in the life of a site manager or a day in the life of a, project manager. I think, it's that goes back to that perception about actually, an engineer in a house building business, like I say, a QS, what does it actually entail? And I think there'd be a lot of people that would be very surprised actually at what a lot of construction roles are. So I think there's definitely something that we can do on social media in that respect, just to sell the industry a bit more and also give people a bit more knowledge about what these roles are.
Do you know what? And she's not here at the moment, but one of our friends and colleagues in the Women in Construction Network has written a book about Molly in construction, and ultimately it was all about teaching young children. I actually read it to my youngest son when he was about 6, but actually it explains exactly what an architect is, exactly what an engineer is. It actually, and honestly, it's one of the easiest books to read to children for them to realise quite how broad it is. And Lisa Malloy, go and look at it on Amazon. It's a brilliant book. And honestly, read it to the kids, but also helps you to understand all the different bits as well, I will say. Anyone else? The only thing I would add about social media is people have got to be conscious, though, that whatever you put on social media has to map out with what is in reality, though, too. Because sometimes I think companies are very good at talking about what it is, and it's almost too good. So when people arrive, especially these Gen Zs who are very, very purposeful, they see a massive gap. They get disengaged very quickly. So you're going to say something, Errol?
Just, I think in terms of shaping the narrative around the industry that we've been talking about, people's mindsets and perceptions of the industry, I think TikTok in particular is very important.
TikTok, yeah.
So in our awards, we've got these Building the Future awards. We had a category last year, I think it was the year before, Young Entrepreneur of the Year award winner. And there's a lady from London who has a huge electrician, I've forgotten her name now, I'm trying to think of it, huge following on Instagram, sponsored by Hilti, right? They support her, massive following, every day telling her story, having a good time as a female Sparky, right? I think companies need to actually invest more in
the
young
individual
stories and just showcase them actually and say, look, just get the stories out there, because they're the ones who are under the coalface now.
Yes.
It's not the teachers anymore, it's the TikTok influencers.
It's so true, and that's how you kind of make it real, I think, for young kids, like you were saying. How does it feel real? How do you make it feel like it's a day-to-day? What's the real lived experience? Okay, so what's everyone here saying? Everyone here is saying clear career progression is clearly the most important. I totally agree. And pay and benefits, particularly how expensive education is if people go into further and higher education. So this is an interesting one. How do you retain talent once you've found it? I.e., what is the biggest reason people leave? It's why we all have roles, but it's why Verity has to pay a lot of money.
I learned very early on that they don't necessarily leave the company, they leave their manager.
Yes.
So interviewed many, many people over the years looking for jobs. It wasn't always about salary. It was about how they felt.
Yeah.
And there's a big one, isn't there, by Maya Angelou. It's not necessarily how you were spoken to, it was how you were made to feel.
Yeah.
And it's so true in life generally, I think, that, it's so important that these people feel valued. And I think coming back to the youngsters when they're coming in for career progression, I do think they have higher expectations than when I started in the workplace. And my boss said to me, go and get me a cup of tea. You go and make your cup of tea, trot off, come back. Anything else I can do? Whereas now I think they don't, they very much come in, this is my job, I want to do that, and they need to be able to touch and feel it. But you've also got to be realistic with them, that you will need to make the tea for a week, and then you can move on to doing not photocopying anymore, was it? Or sending faxes.
Yeah.
Or doing the filing. That was what it was like.
I remember the faxes. I'm obviously giving my age away. Is there anything you want to share, Verity, I know about your story and your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I started my career in house building as a land secretary, so I started off right at the bottom, and I worked my way up, obviously. So to be MD by the time I was 35, obviously, was something I was really proud of. But I always go by the motto that I wouldn't ask somebody in the team to do something that I wasn't prepared to do.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of getting the culture right and making sure that people are happy in the workplace and retaining good staff is that, the expectations are clear, and that you shouldn't be expecting somebody to do something if you wouldn't do it yourself. And that is something that we're really proud of in my region in Central Home Counties. But I think also it's just about being really clear on expectations, that, when someone takes a role, You know, you're not expected in the first part of your career to have all the answers. You know, I always say to apprentices, graduates coming in, like, now is the time to ask the questions, because obviously when you are more senior, when you do progress, you are going to be expected to know things. So don't be kind of ignorant or arrogant and sort of act like, you know, you've got all the answers now. Ask lots of questions. And I think realistically, when there's a clear expectation about what's expected from the employer to the employee, if that's not been met, then obviously there's a clear conversation there to say, well, you said this was my expectation. And I just think like a common ground and understanding from the outset is what helps.
Excellent. While we're discussing this, there's a question on here which is, which untapped talent pool represents the biggest opportunity for construction? So everyone is kind of referring back to what we talked about, which is school. There is returners to work, which I think is a big one myself, because I think a lot of people now don't view their careers anymore as one career. I think people feel like they can have several careers, especially as the Gen Zs will probably work until their 80s to be able to afford their retirement. So I personally think the returners to work is something to really think about, or career changers. I think that could be something. Okay, so how do you attract talent from diverse communities who have historically been excluded from the sector? Do you want to start? Do you want to start, Sam? Because you did talk about, returners to work, etc.
It's visibility. It's making sure that your job adverts aren't a big essay of requirements that the person who's written is going to find a purple unicorn, because they don't exist. But also making them really easy to understand. So an advert is one strand. Evangelists from within your business going out into the community is another strand. For your diverse candidates, you have to speak to them 7 times for them to consider applying, and then they're going to research your company. So you can't have tertiary statements that says we're an inclusive and diverse business, because they will they will look for your policies, they will go on Glassdoor, they will go on Trustpilot, and they will find evidence to support if you are a diverse and inclusive business. And then they'll ask their friends. And if that doesn't reinforce that statement, they are not clicking apply, and you have lost them from that application route before they've even started. So being visible, breaking down what's actually essential to the job to be successful versus like what is nice to have. Disrupt your interview panels. Don't let the people who've always interviewed them do the interviews again.
I like that.
Like, get into it. Don't pick a token woman to come sit on your panel either, and that becomes a full-time job. Like, really think, have I challenged yourself? Have I challenged the role when it was designed? Can it be part-time? Should it be full-time? Does it have to be site-based? Can it be hybrid? Can it be home-based? Like, am I going to equip this role to attract the broadest spectrum? Like, and the one thing that is creeping back, and I believe it's due to the use of AI in writing adverts, is saying they need a minimum X amount of years of experience. We've just lost Gen Z and the younger millennials. They're not going to apply. They're opting out because they don't fill one of your essential criteria. And that is really restrictive to getting that age diversity that's often overlooked.
I totally agree. Go on.
I think also it's always having recruitment at the forefront of your mind. I know we're going to speak about retention, but recruitment shouldn't be the last minute panic. We need someone, especially, I've met with a lot of the people on sites and construction, and they are under an immense amount of pressure in the offices to get these projects done, these designs done, and get the materials through. But, there's got to be, from the higher level, constantly thinking about the recruitment. Where are we? What's going on? What's the future look like? And I think as you're tapping into that consistently, you then become an employer of choice. And your employee value proposition has got to be really strong.
Yeah.
And almost not just a UK-wide, but a site, because it's going to be different in central London to what it's going to be in North Wales. So you've got to really get into and peel back. I think we said in the last discussions about peeling back the layers and knowing the areas and knowing the, who's out there, as you say, within the different groups.
Anything more you wanted to add, Errol?
Just a thought, really. So I think it links to the whole progression piece. I was chatting to somebody last week. She said her son works on a construction site, and he was adamant that construction in the industry is diverse. Any site I go onto, I see loads of black and brown people. And then she said, well, what about the level up? And he thought about it, and he said, you know what, it's true. Or everyone in management and above doesn't look like me, right? So there's a question around are there any structural barriers that we need to look at and break down that are preventing people, whether because they can't see themselves, whether it's because of confidence, whether it's because of just accessibility, that people are not seeing themselves in the positions that, as someone that can progress in the industry, you with me?
I understand that.
Yeah.
And I think it's back to this whole role modelling. Unless you can, and I do agree, that everything we know about Gen Z is they will research. They'll research really heavily before they apply. We all know that. That's different to other generations in the way that they interact with recruitment tools. So I think unless they can see at the higher levels, there's a long-term career here, they might think, and I think it's so important the representation. So, is the industry's image the biggest barrier to recruitment, and how do we fix it? I guess we've been trying to answer this. I'm also going to move on to asking you all to submit your questions. Anyone else would like to?
Yeah, I think, again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier in terms of the perception, and ultimately it's not just boots out on site and PPE. And, it's really hard work working out on site. It's all weathers, the winters are quite tough. But ultimately, there's so many job roles now in construction that people, just wouldn't think of. Like we said earlier, engineering, accountants, architects, QSs, land buyers, I remember when I was a land buyer and one of my friends said, what's a land buyer? What do they do? Is it just like an estate agent then? And, land buyers, land managers, I think also it's such a rewarding career, construction. And, it's well paid in lots of respects. There's a real career path. I think the construction industry doesn't sell itself enough in terms of if you come in and you work hard and you want to progress, there is a real clear pathway, and going back to what we said earlier about not having to just have so many years experience, I think most construction companies and most house builders are supportive of progression within, and that actually it's a really great career, and I think we just need to change that perception.
Anyone else want to add to that one? Just about the biggest barrier to recruitment. Anyone else want to add?
I'm going to say something controversial. For blue collar, we've got Gen Z actually really keen on blue collar roles, and the paradox is their parents are pushing them away from blue collar roles because they don't understand the squiggly career that they can have from it. So as much as we need to educate teachers, we need to educate the children. It's nothing if we don't disrupt the message that goes to parents. Parents are really blinkered. We only know what we know. I'm very lucky that I work for an engineering recruitment company, so my poor daughter has the message, be an engineer. You can get a degree apprenticeship and you don't get any debt.
I've been saying the same thing to my 14-year-old son for about 2 years, yeah.
She won't listen to me if at age 7 if that trend continues. But we have to get in front of the parents, so let's look at how we can do that. Does the parents' evening still work? Should parents be going filled with the same dread they had when their parents were going for them? Or do we have an opportunity as an industry to really flip it on its head and do a disruptive parents' evening where employers in the area educate the parents on the careers that their children could go to?
Idea. I love that.
Don't be stealing it.
I really love that one.
Don't steal it. I like that.
Yes. And that's really great. Can we try and answer one of the ones that's been submitted behind us? So we support women who are interested in careers in construction, but we find men are less willing to recruit women. What can be done to get more women employed in the industry, particularly trades roles?
I think that comes back to what Verity was saying around demonstrating and having that access, of seeing it and being able to almost touch it and see that it is a career path. If you think that, the ageing population within construction, a third of workers are over 50 within those trades. So you're going to have a real issue potentially over the next sort of, 15 years if we're not tapping into that younger generation. I spoke to somebody earlier actually that was saying there is a bit of a stigma around women coming into those roles, and I don't want to cause any sort of, issues, but I think there's a bit of fear, and I don't know whether it's a bit of a fear that, well, they can't lift that, or they can't do this, or, that And I think that it's breaking down that perception that has to come from the top.
Yeah.
And that has to be a culture and a change and a mindset and a reason as to, yes, this can work and this has worked.
How do you, so Verity as an employer, how do you, because obviously you work for a big house builder, what things have you seen or you've observed that you think works really well?
Yeah, so a lot of it does come from the culture and it comes from the top, and ultimately, you know, you have to be able to see someone to believe that you can be in that role also. So that's obviously different areas of diversity. Obviously, I'm a female in a senior position and I'm a big advocate of women in senior positions, and I'm always pushing that. But I suppose it's definitely changed. I mean, I've been in house building sort of 18 years now, and it's getting on for, you know, the last 5, 8, 10 years, I would say there's definitely been a change. And it's education and making the wider teams understand that actually, you know, there are some very successful women in senior positions in house building. I mean, you look at Taylor Wimpey, Jenny Daly, CEO, think she's the first woman CEO of a big house building company, and I think we're going to see more and more of that. And ultimately, we're probably still 10, 15 years away. I think you're not going to just change it overnight, but I think it's at the recruitment point. You know, you have to make sure that there are enough people from different backgrounds and different genders and from a different diverse background that are being interviewed. And ultimately on our apprentice and graduate assessment days, I'm always making sure that there is a real balance in the room, and we've had a big drive on that as well. But it is education, and I think, you know, it isn't going to change overnight, but it's moving in the right direction.
Excellent. Should we see if we've had any other? Let me just move this along, see if I can do it. Oh, no, is that our only question? Oh, God, I've got on to the next one. Don't look at the... Right, okay. Please. Okay, this is the next one, so please come along to that one. Okay, going back to the next question. What does a people-first culture look like day-to-day on a construction project?
People first. Okay, it comes back to team. So ultimately, a construction site and the team that are on the site are a team, and whether it's the team in the office, a departmental team, ultimately people first is health and safety. You know, a lot of the site teams are really focused on, obviously, everyone from that construction site needs to go home safely at the end of the day. It's having trust. I mean, you have to trust who you're working for and who you're working with, and it's having the ability to speak up and speak out if you're not happy with something on site. So yeah, there's lots of different strands to this. I mean, could probably go on about this all day. But I think trust and teamwork and people being happy in their roles as well is a big thing.
And I think this all comes back to the original question, which is how do you not only obviously attract people in the first place, but then retain them? And I think the culture is often what we were just saying. I mean, you were saying earlier, Karen, that it's all about people often leave their manager, but it's also the culture being, when it's positive, can really be a big retention tool, can't it?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Right, next question. How do we future-proof the workforce against automation and a changing skills landscape? Now, this doesn't say the word in it, but I think we're actually talking about AI, aren't we? Because I feel like every news article I read, everything on social media tells me that everything's about to be replaced by AI. So how do we future-proof the workforce against this? Or is it as much of a threat as people think it is? Anyone want to start us on it?
I mean,
go on, Errol.
I'll have a go.
Let's have it. Come on.
I think the reality is that AI is moving forward so quickly. I was chatting to someone on the way here who's gone to the law thing around there, accountancy thing around there, and they're saying the same thing in accountancy, that things are moving so fast that you just can't keep up with it, right? A new release comes out tomorrow, you spend a weekend building something, and then the next day it's done, you know? There's a new update. And so I think that ultimately we're going to have to learn how to harness the creativity, the skill set within our younger generation, and give them the space to experiment and to use the tools as early as we possibly can. Because ultimately, if we're not going to embrace it and use it, there are other companies and nations who are around the world who are actively pressing. Even you've seen the robots that are out there these days. You've seen the different tools that are out there these days. We can't just sit back and watch it. We have to ask ourselves, how do we improve what we're doing? how do we improve our systems and our processes so that when these new adaptations come in industry-wide and nation and international and globally, are we up to speed? Are we ready to get on board? I think we can't just wait for it to happen to us.
Anyone else? Karen, do you want to have a go?
I was just going to say on the automation piece, I mean, we've got some large timber frame factories and we're also using some really kind of modern brick systems. I mean, this country has a massive shortage of trades and that we haven't got enough people coming through. If you look at the amount of people that will be retiring from trades in the coming years, obviously we're in a bit of a downturn at the moment, but when things pick up, there just simply will not be the labour there to build the houses that we need. So I think the automation side is positive. I think as new modern methods of technology come forward, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think from more sort of office-based roles and sort of the people piece, we just need to use it in the right way. I think it's not going to happen quickly, but just making sure that those things that we are using for AI are used in the right way, but also are used efficiently. It's just helping people actually do their jobs more efficiently day to day.
I always hear that AI is going to make everything more efficient, and that's interesting, but I don't think it ever replaces relationships. To me, it's about task efficiency, but I think at the core, where humans like to interact with other humans. So I think they can live side by side, but I hope it never replaces the other one.
Yeah, no, just echo in fairness what Verity's already said and what you've just said there, Gaelle. I think it's not being fearful of change.
Yeah.
And definitely, I think efficiency, we can all be more efficient, can't we? So being slightly older in the workforce and having the first computer and somebody bringing in a mobile phone with a brick as a battery.
I remember that.
From where
Good
we
old
are
days.
there to where we are now. I think it's just about embracing it and seeing the positive of that, but not letting it take away, like you said, the personal element. Because people will still buy from people. They'll still leave people. They won't leave the robot that might be doing that job. They'll still leave the people. So let's go with it. The world's ever changing.
Yeah.
And I think we have to do that.
Sam, anything more you wanted to add? And then we're going to have to start wrapping it up, I'm afraid.
I think it comes back to what you've just said. It's the human in the loop. AI isn't brilliant. We've got to think about the human element in every part of it. That's how it's changing your job design, but also how your employees are going to receive AI and automation. Are they going to see it as a threat and not adopt it, so your investment is compromised or it takes longer to get that return on investment? Are they already using it and you've not got a policy, but their teammates are getting really frustrated that there's somebody in the team who's constantly using ChatGPT to spit emails out faster, to do analysis quicker, and they're not even checking what ChatGPT says, but someone who's going, wow, that's great, because they've not used ChatGPT yet. What is it doing to your culture? And that is, before we even think about job design and where we can apply it to, your culture can be, and we are seeing it being eroded on a team level and on, broader enterprise levels without factoring in how AI is currently being used and how it's making those people feel in your business.
No, I think for me, it's something that helps with efficiency. It doesn't help with relationships. That's how I would say. If you want a binary answer to a question or something doing, it'll do it for you. What it won't do is then sell that idea, sell that presentation, interact, make that person engaged, follow up, and make sure that person then does actually do the thing they said they were going to do. It doesn't break good news. It doesn't break bad news. It doesn't reinforce positive behavior. It doesn't, negative behavior. It's just a way to be more efficient in certain roles. So I think we've got to embrace it, but realize its limitations. And I think sometimes the scare stories don't talk enough about its limitations, I think. So, yay. So I hope that if you came, I was reading this, if you came to the session with a problem, did we give you the solutions? I hope that we did. I hope you're leaving at least with the beginning of a solution. And I hope that if nothing else, we gave you some ideas to think about. So there's another Q&A and panel straight after this one. So please stick around. It's going to be really, really interesting. You've got the whole program sitting there in front of you that has the agenda for the rest of the day. And you've got 10 minutes before the next one kicks off. So thanks, everybody, for all of your answers. Thank you very much.